Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode number 15 of the 2026 Unsung Heroes series, where I cover the top privateer and non factory racers who compete in the main events in Supercross and who score points outdoors. Round 15 of 17 in the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship just took place on Saturday night. Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, hosting a round for the third year in a row, and it was a bit wet this year. 2 weekends in a row that have been affected by rain. Obviously, Cleveland, it was a wet track, but nothing super crazy. It was a mutter on Saturday night in Philadelphia. Some riders putting together some great results, others putting up career firsts, such as career first starts, first laps led. There was a lot going on Saturday night, and I am here to recap all of the top privateers and those who qualified for each main event. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. You can, of course, find this show along with the Stire Sound, along with Who's Standing Is It Anyway, on all of my podcast platforms. There's a link tree in the bio of my Instagram to find all the links for the different platforms and social medias that I use. But Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, the usual landing spots for my shows. Without further ado, we'll get right into things. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, and we hope you enjoy today's episode. We're going to kick things off this week on the Unsung Heroes of Philadelphia and talk to someone who made his first career main event start on Saturday night. He navigated through the mud to qualify in the LCQ and then finished 18th overall at the end of the night. From 3D Racing, he's competing on a KTM. He's a rookie in the 250 East Supercross Series this year. Please welcome the pride of Duxbury, Massachusetts, Russell Buccheri, to the Unsung Heroes. What's up, man? Congratulations on your first main event. Take me through that feeling, dude. How did it feel when you crossed the line and saw your name on the leaderboard and went, you know what? I'm a main event starter in Supercross.
Oh man, it was a pretty surreal feeling, I had a great start in the heat race. I think I came around sixth, and I was in ninth, and I ended up making a mistake, and I tipped over, and the mud was probably added 100 pounds to my bike, and it took me a while to get back up. So I had a 19th gate pick in the LCQ, and I was looking at the gates, and all the grates were covered in mud, and all the ruts after them. Like, none of them were straight. So I went all the way to the end, and the end gate, the last grate was completely clean. There was no mud on it at all, and there wasn't even a rut. Nobody had gone there yet, and I chose that one, and I didn't even get that great of a jump, but I was able to drive down the straightaway like insanely well. I wheelied down the straightaway, and just swung it wide, and I came out P2. I was going for the whole shot, but Cody was up the inside, and I just, followed him in for the next few laps, and rode it in for second in the LCQ. And I mean, I came off, and it was a pretty surreal feeling. My dad was super pumped. We've been working our butts off trying to get to this, trying to get to where we are now, and it was definitely a great sense of accomplishment, being able to achieve that goal that we've been going after this whole season. I mean, I did it on my ninth round. I was 8 rounds in, and I was like, damn. I'm like, I shouldn't say I was 0-8, but the goal from the start is make a main event, and I was able to do it in the ninth round. Thank God. And then the main event. The main event was sick. I went back to that outside gate because I had good luck with it, and I pulled another amazing start. I think I came out fifth on the whole shot. I think that's what my name was on the leaderboard, and I kind of got shuffled back a little bit, and I believe I was sitting around like 9, 10, 11 area for up until the red flag, and then the red flag happened, and I was already on my spare goggles. I had no more goggles with like that were clean. I had a set that had some tear offs on it. And so I lined up back for the staggered start, and I had water in my lenses and stuff. And I think it was Landon Gordon in front of me, and I seen him turn around and like look back, and I seen he had brand new goggles on, and I was like, oh man, I'm in for a good one here. And it was definitely a pretty insane feeling. I was looking up at the leaderboard, and I seen like I was in ninth in the staging there, and I seen that I was like 2 spots in front of Seth Hamaker. I'm like, I am straight up in front of Seth Hamaker right now. This is pretty insane. But I had to log back in pretty quick, and the restart tightened everything up a bit. So guys were a lot closer together, and I ended up making a small mistake after the finish line. I just tucked the front, and when I picked my bike up, my front wheel was like locked up. It was just like pushing and sliding everywhere. But thank God it freed up. I had to go on the concrete and kind of like get out of the mud to try and like get it to sling off of the front wheel so it would get to spinning again. And by that time I was back in 20th, and I seen two guys in front of me that I knew weren't guys that had lapped me and whatnot. So I just kind of sent it the last few laps, and was able to pass two guys for 18th. And I mean, it was probably one of the most fun nights I've ever had on a dirt bike. It's definitely not the most comfortable, but it sure was a fun track to be able to race a main event on for sure.
Of course, it's a big mark off the bucket list for you. You were solid in SMX Next last year. You've made a bunch of starts at nationals over here on the East Coast the last couple years, but now finally a main event starter in Supercross. But you talk about the day overall in Philly, and of course, you guys were qualifying out on the dry. Everything was pretty standard in the morning.
Yep.
Rain started coming down for the second sessions, but it really wasn't affecting the track too much. And then a couple hours before the night show started, it just started dumping rain. I mean, talk about some of the conditions throughout the night because obviously, like I said, you start the day, it's dry, fairly perfect conditions, at least in terms of weather wise, and then it just gradually gets worse. Track gets wetter, it gets muddier. Take me through the day and how things just progressively got worse because I'm sure what you raced on in the heat felt completely different from the main event.
Yeah, man. I mean, qualifying the track was it had a hard base, and it was kind of marbly and had some, I don't want to say powder berms, but it was definitely a bit more powdery and dry, that's for sure, because I know that they didn't water it at all because they were expecting rain and whatnot. So qualifying, I actually thought the track was really good. I was struggling a little bit to find traction on the side knobbies in my bike, like in like kind of in the flat turn after the whoops. Like there, it was a really tricky spot, and a couple other sections of the track, I felt like I was struggling with finding traction, but I was able to figure it out, and I pulled the whole shot in my second qualifier, and I set a couple burners out quick. And that whole shot definitely gave me good confidence for the or for the night show, because I didn't start outside of the top six. I think I came around six in the heat. I didn't start outside the top six all night. So the heat race, the track was fresh, and I really didn't know like what guys were going to be doing, if they were going to be jumping or rolling, blitzing, like what the whoops are going to look like. You really didn't know because it didn't look bad because it was perfectly groomed, and it was just had water on it. But when I went and looked at the track and seen that there was not much standing water, I was pretty happy to see that, because I'd much rather race in just mud than you know, a track where you might as well need a jet ski out there, like Foxborough last year. And then for the heat race by the LCQ, I honestly think the LCQ was probably the gnarliest, because the track was there was just spaghetti noodle ruts everywhere. There really wasn't any set lines in very much anywhere of the track yet. But by the 250 main, there was, after that 450 LCQ, I think those guys had helped the track cut in some lines. So for the main event, there was some ruts on the track that were down to the hard dirt, and which was definitely nice to be able to find some lines out there that wasn't just slop. But I mean, definitely quite a bit different from qualifying to the night show, that's for sure.
You mentioned Foxborough last year, and of course that was an insane race, and you performed well there as well. You had a top 10, I believe, in the SMX Next class, but on a scale of 1 to 10 for the fans at home and any mud race realistically for fans at home, I know I was sitting at home watching and it's like, man, the rain's pouring. Like everybody just looks miserable in the crowd at a mud race, at a rain race. But on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank the difficulty or the muddy scale of this race compared to Foxborough last year, because obviously you had guys still out there like the 450 class, the 250 guys early on were still jumping some things. I mean, doubles here and there, nothing crazy, but you were still actually jumping stuff. It wasn't just roll, roll, roll your bike like last year's race at
Right.
Foxborough.
Yeah, I would say last year in Foxborough was like an 11 out of 10 scale for difficulty. I mean, it was hard just keeping the motorcycle straight because on the backside, like you said, we were like last year we were going roll, roll, roll over everything. The ruts were so deep that like you had to line up on the front side of the face of the jump. You had to line up for the rut on the backside of the face over every single jump. So this year, I'd say, the other night in Philly, I would say that it was probably like an eight. I'd say it was an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. The whoops were definitely a 10 out of 10 because those things were just straight like spaghetti noodles. I would say like the track there was definitely some dry before the stadium double and before the finish line there was some lines that you could hit to be able to jump those versus Foxborough last year that wasn't even in the cards. It wasn't even possible to get enough drive to do those versus this year, or Philly, I mean, there was definitely some dry lines that you could hit to be able to get enough momentum to jump some of the jumps. I did hit, a couple of the big doubles, maybe once or twice, just because I seen one of the star dudes, or I think it might have been Dax in front of me. When he came around and lapped me, I just kind of followed him off of it, and I was like, "Oh wow, it's actually easier than it looks," because it looked super wet and sloppy, but actually, if you stayed in the main line, it was kind of dry. You could get a drive to jump some of the rhythms, but you definitely had to be good at searching for lines to be able to jump the jumps. That's for sure.
Of course, your rookie season of Supercross just finishing up. Some ups and downs in there. You were close a couple times before this, but didn't quite pull things off. But Saturday night, you got to accomplish a dream, and I don't know how many people realize, but really just yourself and your dad going to the races, driving the van all over the country. Talk a little bit about your rookie season. Of course, a lot of learning in there, I'm sure, and that's for every rookie who moves up to the pro ranks, but how was your rookie season in your eyes? And talk about some of those aspects from going from racing under the stadium lights, a couple times a year to now all of a sudden you're out there every weekend against the best in the world.
Yeah, honestly, I think racing every weekend now is actually a lot easier than racing, once a month or, only a few times a year last year. I was super grateful to have those opportunities and get the feel for it. But I honestly think that when you're racing every weekend, you stay more in the flow and you have more chances and you kind of can better remember like what you needed to work on from the previous week, like remembering your mistakes or what some of your difficulties were the weekend before. It's a lot easier to remember and fix those, I feel like, coming into the next weekend, just because there's only a few days break during the week before you're back on the road, going racing again. But I mean, I'm definitely pretty stoked with how this season went. I mean, the first goal was, finish them all, and leave everyone health, and leave every race healthy. And I have done that so far, thank God. I'm super blessed to be able to live this life that I'm able to live, and have this ability to do so. And I mean, this is just the start, man. I'm just getting started, so I'm super excited to see what the future holds for me. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'll be up there one day. And yeah, it's gonna be good.
Of course, you guys are on the road to all of these races. I mean, do you have any great on the road stories from this season? Obviously, you're going from Texas to Florida, you're going up to Indy to Detroit. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys are all over the map. Any fun travel stories from year one?
I got one on the way to Arlington, the first round. Actually, we were driving at night, and I believe there was something flew out of the back of a rig in front of us, and it pulled the brake line off the rear caliper of the van. So we were down a brake caliper for the whole weekend until we got back to Florida the next week to bring it to the dealership. And I remember that we were supposed to stop, but my dad was worried about stop. If we stopped, that we were going to lose all our brake pressure and then we would have no brakes at all. So we just ran it all the way to Arlington straight through. I think it was like 16, 15 or 16 hours from Florida. And we got there a little bit earlier than we needed to, but I believe he just put a screw in the end of the brake line and a zip tie to keep pressure in it. And we ran it we ran it the whole weekend, and was able to make it back to Florida to get it fixed for the next weekend. But that I would say that was probably the sketchiest or gnarliest story I got from the traveling, and that was round one.
Heck of a way to start the year there, man. To not know if you
Yeah.
have brake pressure in the rear. But you talk about being in Florida. I know you're a Northeast kid from Massachusetts. What is the training situation for you? I'm not 100% familiar, but of course, Georgia, Florida, between like MTF, of course, all the star guys are out down in Florida, sandbox guys, so many different facilities out in Florida. But how have you been training, and what is your program looking like in terms of practice and prep through the week?
Yeah, so since we've been driving, I we usually drive home. We leave wherever the race was Sunday morning, and drive all day Monday, or drive all day Sunday, and then get home Monday. I usually take Monday off from riding and just kind of relax, do a spin, workout and stuff. And right now I'm training at I've been at Club 57 MX here in Jacksonville, Florida at the WW Ranch. I've been here for a few years now, and this program has definitely been working pretty good for me because I've only been making progress, and I'm surrounded by great people and good friends, and I'm super grateful to have all of them. And so Monday's usually a pretty chill day, and then Tuesday I'm back on the bike. Usually Tuesday, Wednesday I'm riding. Some days only once a week, depending on how the body feels. And then Thursday's travel day, and then Friday, thank God, I have been able to be blessed with many press days, morning press days. Thank you to Sean Brennan and the whole Supercross Live, Super Motocross team, getting me into morning press at most of these events. So I'm super grateful to be able to do that. So I've been able to ride press Friday morning at just basically just about every round, and then race day Saturday, and then repeats every week pretty much. I've only had one weekend off. East Coast has been a dig, that's for sure. It's just about racing every weekend, but I enjoy it.
Of course, you're out there representing, and I've told the story in the past, last year after Birmingham, you're out there representing the 3D Racing team, of course, one of the longest running privateer organizations in the pits. Back in the day, of course, the late Bill Dill was the team owner. Guys like Jason Thomas rode for that team. Of course, one of the best privateers of the 2000s. Other guys, Josh Cartwright rode for them, Brandon Scherer. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
have a long list of names of racers who went through that program, but most of the time you think of 3D racing, you think of blue machines, you think of Yamahas, and of course, you're a little bit differently. You're on the orange bikes. You've been KTM your entire professional career so far, and I think most of your amateur career as well. So talk about KTM, what really brought you to the brand in the first place, and then talk about building that relationship and just staying with the orange machines because you were the only guy out there for KTM in the main event. Of course, Juju got hurt at the beginning of the year, so no factory KTM in the 250 class. The Dirt Bike Depot boys have been grinding as well on the East Coast, but on Saturday night, you helped KTM and get in the main event and put in their best result.
Yeah, yeah, man. The KTM's, I have to say the KTM's have been very good to me. And my dad met Roger DeCoster long back in the day, when he was running the Suzuki team, and he helped my dad out at a local national, and gave him some support that no other team did, or offered. And Roger came over and offered my dad a helping hand. And ever since then, my dad has been a fan of Roger, and Roger went to KTM. I believe, I don't know, I'm not sure the year, but I remember I got off 50s, and I believe it was 2016. I got my first KTM 65 from the Cobra 50, and I tried the Yamaha in 2023, but I liked the bike was good, but we just really couldn't get it to last more than a few hours before we'd have some major motor issues. So we really just couldn't find it in the budgets to stay on them. So we went back to the orange ones, and I've been super grateful to be able to ride my ride a KTM at all these races, and I mean the bike is absolutely amazing. It's treated me they've treated me so well, and I've always been a fan of the whole KTM Red Bull KTM team and everything they got going on, and hopefully one day they will uh they will reach out and ask me to come ride for them. But results talk, so just got to keep making these main events and keep working hard, and I know one day it'll come.
One last question here for you. Of course, Pro Motocross Championship is right around the corner. Next month it's kicking off in Fox Raceway. A couple years ago, you turned pro at High Point Raceway, my home track. Then you went to your home track in Southwick, scored some points there. What are the outdoor plans for you this year? Is it going to be like the last couple years where you're staying predominantly on these East Coast 250 class rounds?
So this year, actually, we are doing all 11 pro motocross rounds. So I will be starting at Fox Raceway on round one. And I'm super grateful that the McGinley Clinic is going to be able to transport my bike to all the pro motocross rounds, just because it's a lot more feasible than driving the van all the way from Florida across the country. And doing it that way. So I'm super grateful to have the McGinley Clinic to be able to bring my bike to the pro motocross rounds. And I'm super pumped to be able to start in Fox Raceway. I've always wanted to go to California since I was a little kid, watching YouTube videos of like Hayden Deegan riding there, and all the that was the spot back when I was kind of growing up watching it on YouTube. So I've always wanted to go to California and ride out there and just see those tracks and see what it's like out there. So I'm super excited to be able to head out there in a month and race my dirt bike.
All right, man. This has been Russell Buccheri on the Unsung Heroes of Philadelphia first career 250 Supercross main event. But before we go, shout out some of your sponsors. Who's helping making this possible? Of course, we've mentioned some folks helping you out this year, but give a shout out, give a thank you to those who are helping you get to the races each and every single weekend.
I have to put Tom Zont Racing at the number one spot, man. He does my motors and my suspension and all the major bike work, and he has just been amazing with all my motors, and my bike has never felt better. He works very late nights for me, and does a lot does a lot for me and my program. So I'm super grateful to have him. And then, Brad Jereminski at Club 57 MX, Decal Works, Dirt Care, Twin Air, Renthal. Definitely the guys at Twin Air, they help me out a good bit. It's ETS Racing Fuels. They give us they help us out a good amount with supplying the fuel for us. And I mean, I really don't it's really just kind of a family based team. It's my dad, it's my mom, it's my grandfather, and you know they help me out the most for sure. I really don't have all that many sponsors that are really, I don't want to say that they don't help, but I've kind of just been representing. I've been representing their brands and what what I've got for a while now, and I've kind of just stuck with it. But definitely, hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to pick up some more sponsors that'll be able to help me out tremendously, and I know that'll happen as long as I just keep working hard and keep putting my name up there in the top 20 in the main event and whatnot. So you know, DID, Dunlop, Dirt Care Engine Ice, 100%, Bell, 38 in Motion, 3D Racing. They all help me out.
Thank you for the time, man. Congrats once again on your first career Supercross start. Best of luck this season in the outdoors.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you once again to Russell Buccheri for the time on this week's edition of the Unsung Heroes. He, of course, will be appearing at some of the Nationals later in the season aboard his number 140 KTM. You can also find Russell on Instagram at _Russell Buccheri to follow along with his journey throughout the rest of the year. And now we'll go ahead and get into the rest of the 250 class. Starting off, once again, Club MX Yamaha. It doesn't matter whether Supercross is racing in a dome, in an outdoor stadium, in an infield. Doesn't matter if it's soft dirt, if it's mud, if it's hard pack. The Club MX Yamaha boys have consistently been the top non factory or privateer organization this year. Not really surprising after their success in the last few years, but they are going out there every single weekend putting together great results. Cody Schock led the way for them, fourth place. Devin Simonson, a couple spots back in sixth. A little bit more difficult this week for Cody. He was sent to the LCQ, not a good heat race for the number 22. I think he crashed a couple times, perhaps, but he got the whole shot, got the job done during the LCQ, cruised, got the 19th gate pick, and was pretty solid in the main event. Of course, Schock was right there in contention for the podium. Simonson was as well, and Devin ended up jumping to third after the race resumed following the red flag. Simonson jumped past Cody Schock and Derek Kelly to take P3. He was cruising out there, but Schock ended up getting back around him, and Simonson went down, lost a couple spots. Schock was in third, looked like maybe he would score his first podium of the season, but Seth Hamaker working his way through the pack, flying through the competition. Seth ended up getting around Cody, but a solid P4 for the number 22. And Simonson, of course, rebounding to sixth after his crash. Two solid results once again for the Club MX boys. And now Denver coming up for the 250 West Series. The East boys will be off. It'll be up to Maximus Voland and Hunter Yoder to continue the success and upward trajectory for the Club MX crew. Then just behind them, another team that's sort of established themselves as some of the best in the paddock in terms of privateer non-factory group. Henry Miller 7th, Derek Kelly 8th, and Marshall Welton 10th for the first time this year, and for the first time ever, of course, first-year Supercross team, MX6 Racing Kawasaki. All three riders inside the top 10. What a weekend for that crew. Henry Miller, of course, the top rider of that crew. Once again, he has the team's best result this year, 5th in Detroit. He scored his career best 4th top 10 in a single season, and he is one of the biggest movers of the race. He gained 7 spots before the halfway mark. He looked like he could be in position for another top 5, but Devin Simonson got back around him on his charge forward, as did Nate Thrasher late in the going, but still another solid result. He's well on his way to tying his previous best season points result, and he could set a career best. All he needs is 9 or more points, and he will surpass Joe Shimoda at the finale in Salt Lake City. But for Derek Kelly, a lap led for the first time in his career. DK started in second, then Seth Hamaker went flying through the air like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, and Kelly inherited the lead. He was solid. He led a lap for the first time in his career. His name is in the record books as a lap leader in 250 Supercross now. Of course, Cole Davies was ripping through the pack and got by Kelly pretty quickly. Derek was in third when the race restarted, but everything getting bunched back together. The Club MX boys, a couple other riders worked their way past him. But an 8th place finish, 2 eighths in a row. He just finished there in Cleveland. Derek, 2 top 10s back to back for the first time since the 2023 season. So great results and continued success for MX6 Racing. And speaking of Marshall Welton, career best qualifying effort, P5. During the afternoon, Marsh was ripping in qualifying, and then he was pretty steady in the main event. 10th place for the number 65, all three MX6 machines inside the top 10. Fantastic result for that crew, and they're continuing to get better and better. 9th place, sandwiching in between those guys, you had Gavin Towers on his Phoenix Racing Honda. Gavin, of course, a Northeast native. He is from Pennsylvania, although he is over a bit closer to the Pittsburgh area. Gavin on the Phoenix Racing Honda from Venetia. Still a home state race for him, and he got his best career Supercross finish to date, second career top 10. He had a 10th last year at Seattle. He surpassed it with a 9th on Saturday night, and of course, he's the only guy out there for the Phoenix Racing Honda crew at the moment. So big result for that team, getting some runs in there. Gavin Towers, P9, career best to date so far. I'm sure we will see him improve on this in races to come. 11th, another Honda rider, Jeremy Hand on the Valley Motorsports Honda. He is 6 for 7 in his 250 class attempts this year. Of course, he'll probably be on the 450 this weekend in Denver and to conclude the Supercross season in Salt Lake City. But Jeremy was running top 5. Then he went down right after the green flag, after the race resumed, I believe. Faded back to 19th, but guess what? Jeremy started clawing his way back through the field. He obviously wasn't able to get back toward the top 5, but he gained a lot of real estate and a lot of ground back. Ended the night in 11th place, his best finish of the year. Jeremy so close to a top 10 finish. But a great recovery after an unfortunate fall to begin the restart. Like Gavin Towers, though, the man in 12th scored his best career finish. Brighton Carroll, the second generation racer, of course, doing things on his own, had a little bit of a different look this weekend. Brighton, of course, a Yamaha racer, a bit of a white graphic kit in Philadelphia, number 483, Life of a Privateer, his vlog series, of course. Brighton's previous career best was a 13th, I believe, Birmingham in 2024. Qualified for his second main event of the year, and he kept things steady. 12th place finish, and of course, he's a New Jersey native, so Philly was pretty much his home race this year. Career best for Brighton Carroll. Welcome back to the main event. He made the first one in Arlington, had a few tough races after that, but he was back to finish things on a high note. 12th place for Brighton Carroll. One spot behind him was another Yamaha rider, the rookie Landon Hart, representing the EBR Performance Family Power Sports Yamaha team. He had a tough weekend in Cleveland, really wasn't in the fight for a transfer spot in the LCQ there, but he was in Philadelphia. He was pretty smooth in the LCQ there. He was up front early, scored a position on the main event gate, and then a 13th place finish, another top 15 result for Landon. 11th at Nashville, his best of the year. But fourth start for the Alabama native, Landon Hart's continuing to get laps under his belt and to adapt to the professional ranks. It's been a solid rookie season for him. A couple spots back, you'll find Luke Neese on the number 95, representing that Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing crew. 15th for Luke. Quiet weekend for him, but guess what? It's another top 15 finish, and he gained 7 spots after the green flag. He started in dead last, but he worked his way forward. He's also on track to tie his career best points finish like Henry Miller is. Then one spot behind him, Hamden Hudson. First main event of the season, and it seems like Hamden is a bit of a mud racing savant. 2 out of his 3 main event starts have been in the mud. Last year in Foxborough, Hamden qualified. This year, it's been a tough year for Hamden. A lot of disappointing results, but he finally gets through there, puts it through the heat race, didn't even have to worry about the LCQ. A great heat ride from Hamden, puts it in the main event. 16th overall for the number 188, the second year pro from Danville, Virginia. And it was a little bit ironic. Usually he has been the one guy on the outside looking in, but he stepped up when his teammates struggled. Kyle Peters and Luke Clout both missing the main event, which was a bit of a surprise for sure. But Hamden Hudson stepped up to keep the PRMX crew inside the main event. Welcome back to the main event, Hamden. Great to see him back in the show. 17th place, Ryder Floyd. He was back on his usual machine, on his Honda for Tylube Honda Racing, and he actually led a part of the opening lap in the second heat race. Got off to a really good start, jumped ahead of a couple of people, and Floyd was out front early. He ended up slipping back a little bit in the race, but man, that first corner, he hooked around it, went through as other guys were making mistakes and bobbling and sliding around. Second main event of the year for Ryder and second in the last 3 weeks. 17th place for the Texan. Just behind him in 18th, of course, we talked to him a little bit earlier, Russell Buccheri on the number 140 machine. Great to see Russell in his first career main event representing 3D Racing. One of 2 first-time main event qualifiers. Sandwiching the 2 newbies, I guess you could say, was Luca Marsalisi, his third main event of the year on the Triumph of Harrisonburg machine. And what a heat race from the Hitman. He's another Northeast guy from Connecticut. He's no stranger to the mud, to the rain. He's not scared to get a little bit dirty. And he was right there, third in his heat race for the majority of the contest. Then Nate Thrasher goes down late trying to catch Nick Romano, and Marsalisi ends up moving past him. Second place in the heat, a big time result for the small but new Triumph of Harrisonburg crew. 19th in the main event, not quite the end result that he wanted, but still progress. And Luca Marsalisi getting to put in a great heat ride there. I mentioned that he was the meat in the middle of two brand new main event qualifiers. Shout out to another rookie who made his first career main event on Saturday evening, Jonathan Getz from Florida. A fun fact, Jonathan is the only Husqvarna privateer to qualify for a 250 main event this year. We've had a couple others try, Blake Davies, Dylan Cunha on the West Coast, Justin Aragaki as well on the West. On the East Coast, it's been Getz, it's been Logan Riggins, but Jonathan Getz putting a privateer Husqvarna into the field. He's backed by Seminole Power Sports and BWR. Fast House, I believe, also supporting his program. So a few different sponsors in there for Jonathan. But he is another SMX Next graduate, raced in that division last year, and then qualified through the LCQ, held on to the final transfer spot, holding off Hayes Edwards, and then Jonathan, first career main event, 20th place. Congratulations to both Russell Buccheri and Jonathan Getz on their first career main events. But unfortunately, in 22nd, one of the big headlines of the night, unfortunately, Isaiah Clark, a brutal crash. He was running great all day, solid heat race. He was there inside the top three for most of that contest. And I believe he was running about fifth or sixth in the main event when he unfortunately went down, and it was a big one. Landed hard, and it seems like a broken femur for Isaiah Clark. I believe he's already had surgery and is on the mend. Despite the injury, despite the crash that brought out the red flag and getting carted off, it seemed like Isaiah was in pretty good spirits. Of course, his girlfriend Kylie was by his side to help him through the pain, keep up the moral support, but Isaiah seems to be in good spirits. Hopefully, he's able to heal up, have a speedy recovery. A very unfortunate end to a solid, perhaps the best season of Isaiah's Supercross career to date. And of course, we had Isaiah on the Unsung Heroes last week. So a bummer to see him after a career best in Cleveland. Looked like he was on track for potentially another career best finish in Philly, but went down, and that's the nature of the beast of Supercross and motocross at times. Speedy recovery to Isaiah. Then a couple notes from outside the main event. Hayes Edwards, like I mentioned, one spot outside, just again, second week in a row, just a little bit short. He went on a charge late, but Jonathan Getz was a bit too far out in front of him, and Edwards was unable to make the pass. Hayes, of course, another rookie this year. The Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot WMR KTM team finally returned to a full roster. Jackson Driscoll was back from a shoulder injury. I believe Arlington was the only round he was able to contest early in the season, and he got hurt before round two for the East guys in Daytona. But Driscoll was back and ended up being the top DBD racer in the LCQ, but none of those riders were able to transfer in the main event. Marcus Phelps' streak ends at 2 after a couple really solid weeks. Jace Kessler moved up a lot during the LCQ, but none of the Dirt Bike Depot boys were able to qualify. Also returning to action was Ashton Aruda. He was also at the first couple Supercross rounds, but missed the last few for the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program. Ashton, number 181 on a Kawasaki. He's also pretty new to Supercross. He was back in action. Got a great start in the LCQ, but wasn't able to keep it in the transfer spots. Got shuffled back a little bit early. But nonetheless, great to see the Massachusetts native back on the gate. Now we move into the SMX Next division, their fifth and final race of Supercross, their championship race, and four non-factory racers inside the top 10. The leader of that group, Jeremy Fapani, first career SMX Next podium, a great ride for the former Orange Brigade KTM rider on his own this year. and receiving some help and guidance from the legendary John Tomac in recent weeks. Jeremy has been steadily climbing. He was sixth earlier in the year, got a fourth, and now a podium in the mud in Philadelphia. He started the race in third after Will Cannigier went down on the finish line jump and cruised from there. Jeremy Fapani, third place, first career SMX Next podium, and what a way to do it against the toughest competition of the season. Congrats to Jeremy and those who are supporting him for the great result. One spot behind, I think perhaps the most impressive racer on Saturday night in the SMX Next class from the Club MX Yamaha team, Jessen Turner. It was a bad start for the Arkansas native, started about 13th, I believe, and he got stuck behind his teammate Ryder Malinowski, who went down early, and then Jessen went to work, and he kept climbing forward. He kept pushing. He was one of the fastest riders on track, second fastest lap time, actually, behind Deacon Dino, who won the race. And Turner kept pushing. There was, of course, that battle for fourth place toward the end of the race that we saw on the TV broadcast, and Justin Turner said, "No way. You guys think you're racing for fourth? That's my spot." He took it from them. He was on rails during the main event, and he's had a couple up and down starts this season, had some solid runs, and then had some were ruined by an early crash. Turner finished only 3 seconds behind Fapani, actually a little less than 3 seconds. So I think if there was a little more time, he could have made even more noise. But Jessen Turner was on fire late in the race and actually set his best laps of the race in the final 3 laps. Pretty interesting there. And I mentioned the battle for fourth position before that. Landon Gibson was in there, but so was the racer from Mexico, Ale Carminati, aboard the EBR Performance Yamaha, another one of the EBR boys. And Carminati, what a great performance from him. He's had a couple top 15s, getting used to SMX Next earlier in the year. Heard a lot about the kid in Arlington, heard that he was pretty fast and he is willing to swing his leg over any type of bike and to get out there and rip a sixth place finish for the number 170. Great run for him. And then your last non-factory racer in the top 10, Seth Dennis, P9 for the Future MX Yamaha crew. Seth has been in the top 10 a lot this year and ending the season with a top 10 and another positive run. Now let's move into the 450 class, and what a performance, start to finish throughout the night show for Joey Savacci aboard his quad lock Honda. He's putting in the best Supercross season of his career, and he had his best career finish on Saturday night, tying his previous best mark. Fourth place finish and a heat race victory, his first heat race win since his rookie season. In the heat, he was battling tooth and nail with Justin Barsha for the victory. They swapped the lead a couple times, but Savacci held on for the heat win, and I believe it could be Quadlock Honda's first heat race win. I might be mistaken. Shane McElrath might have got a heat race win a year ago. But regardless, Joey Savacci, what a performance from the number 17. Then in the main event, he starts inside the top 5 and really just cruises there. And keep in mind, there were only 4 racers on the lead lap by the end of the night, and Savacci was one of them. He held things steady, cruised to a 4th place finish. Yes, I'm looking back now. Shane McElrath did indeed win a heat race last year in the mud at Foxborough. But regardless, a big night for the Quadlock Honda team. 3 of their racers inside the top 10. And as I said, Savacci leading the way. A great performance from the number 17. Perhaps 2026, the best version of Savacci we've witnessed in his career so far. He's been performing incredibly well all year. And speaking of performing incredibly well, just behind him, another great weekend, third in a row, really, of a lot of progress and a lot of positivity from Justin Hill on the Monster Energy Team Tedder KTM. Not a guy I would put up there in the mud specialist category, but Justin got the job done, a P5 in the main event, and he was climbing through the field early. He was 16th around the opening corner, gained 5 spots before taking the green flag, and he just kept moving, got into P5. Yes, he did get lapped at the end of the race, but another top 5 finish, his second in the last 3 weeks. Of course, he had that amazing third moto in Cleveland as well. And for the third straight week, the top KTM was Justin Hill once again for the Privateer Team Tedder organization, still holding ninth in points. And Justin is looking really good for the Super Motocross World Championship playoffs. Of course, he has qualified as an automatic berth twice. Justin, I believe, was a wild card as well in 2024. He is putting together some fantastic results, and he is on the cusp of another potential berth in the playoffs. He scored 194 points last season, which was enough to get him the 19th seed and a spot in the playoffs. Of course, we've got 2 rounds left to go this season, and Justin has 165 points on the board. He might need a couple really good races once again. Maybe we'll see him at a couple nationals, who knows? But Justin Hill, I would expect to see back in the playoffs again after his great results. And then Shane McElrath, P6, best finish of the year for Shane. Of course, I just mentioned his heat race win last year and his first career podium in the mud at Foxborough. He got a top 5 in the mud at San Francisco. And when he's ripping around in the ruts deep in the mud, Shane McElrath seems to be at home. Another really strong run, 6th place effort, his best of the year, 3 consecutive top 10s. Shane has been one of the most improved riders over the second half of the season, and he's continuing his success with another great performance. Congrats to Shane on his recent upturn in momentum. He's now up to 12th in points. Speaking of the Quadlock Honda team, Dean Wilson not too far behind. Dino in P8 is actually his 75th career 450 Supercross top 10. A lot of top 10 finishes in the career of Dean Wilson, and he was inside the top 10 every single lap at Philadelphia. Of course, he returned to action a couple weeks ago in Nashville, his third race back in competition, back inside the top 10. 14th position. Got to go a little bit deeper in the field to find the next privateer. That would be Mitchell Harrison aboard the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki. And of course, Mitchell caught a little bit of fire from his performance on Saturday night because Ken Roxon named Mitchell as one of the racers that he struggled to get around. And Mitchell took to social media and to talk about the issues. He just posted something earlier today, recording this on Monday evening, from Mitchell Harrison's time leading a mud race at Unadilla, and he was caught out by some lap traffic, so he has been in that position before. But 14th, it was a top 15 run. It may seem like he's been catching a lot of fire and that he was just kind of rolling around back there, but he got a top 15 finish. He was ahead of 2 factory racers. Mitchell Harrison, not a bad effort on Saturday night, and he is 14 of 15 this season. We've talked about Money Mitch all year. Apart from the one hiccup in Nashville, he's been in every single main event. One spot behind him, 15th place, Christian Craig, the final Quadlock Honda rider. He started in last, ended up climbing to 15th. Not a great night for Craig. He's had a few rough weeks in a row. Maybe he can get back on the right track pretty soon. 17th place, the other PRMX Kawasaki rider, Cade Clayson, 2 consecutive starts. Of course, it was rough early in the year for him between DNQs and then that collarbone injury that took him out for a while. Cade started inside the top 10, was looking good early in the main event, but made a mistake, must have went down, lost several spots. But Cade, 2 consecutive main event starts, 2 top 20s, getting a little bit of momentum as the year winds down. Good for Cade to start getting back some positive momentum. 19th place, Grant Harlan on the KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM rider, back in the main event. Struggled in Cleveland, but he put it in the show in Lincoln Financial Field. 19th place for Grant. Just behind him, 20th place, Vince Freezy. Still perfect this year, 15 for 15 on the ISRT Kawasaki machine. And this week in Denver, if Vince is able to qualify, he will make his 140th career 450 Supercross main event, which would be a huge accomplishment. Very few riders reach that many number of starts in their career. Plus, he is at 196, I believe, combined right now. He's closing in on 200 career main event starts. What a career from Vince. The longevity is up there for sure. He turned pro. His first Supercross start was in 2009, and he is still going out there, closing in on 200 career starts. Awesome to see for Vince. 21st place, welcome back to the main events. Scott Meshy, P21 on the night on his Husqvarna for the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program. Of course, he made the main event in Daytona, and we talked to him after that race, and now he was back in the main after a solid LCQ ride. Unfortunately, got landed on by Justin Barsha pretty early in the main event and went down another time. I believe got stuck a bit with the muddy conditions. Not quite the result he wanted, but luckily for Scott, he was back in the main, scoring another point and also keeping the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program in the show. Then in 22nd, perhaps the surprise of the weekend was Kyle Chisholm returning back to the track. Of course, Chiz has been doing a lot of testing duties, both with Factory Kawasaki, the Monster Energy Kawasaki team, and the HEP Motorsports Suzuki organization. Now, for the final three Supercrosses, Kyle signed with the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki team, so another team to add to his infinity stones of race teams. But he's on a Kawasaki machine, a little bit different suspension, possibly more of a factory style suspension, but very much a PRMX bike, FMF pipe, Scar handlebars. Kyle was back in the show, put it through his heat race, but he said he aggravated his knee a little bit. Ultimately, did not line up for the main event, I don't believe, but he was still credited with a 22nd place finish. Hopefully, we get to see more out of Chiz in these final two rounds at Salt Lake City and Denver. Welcome back to one of the true good guys in the pits, and of course, one of the greatest privateers of all time. And you talk about his team Infinity Stone list. I mean, let's just run down a few of them. Richmond Racing Kawasaki, Motorsport.com Extreme Kawasaki, San Manuel L&M Yamaha, Moto Concepts Racing, Jeff Ward Racing, Velocity 3 Yamaha, JGRMX, HEP Motorsports, Rock River Yamaha, Rocky Mountain ATV MC Honda, 5150 Energy Drink Yamaha, Star Racing Yamaha, now PRMX Kawasaki added to the list of teams that Kyle Chisholm has competed for in his career. Now moving on to a couple riders who are outside the main event, a couple more Kawasaki guys, in fact. Logan Leitzel, it was his home race, the Dillsburg, Pennsylvania native, number 208 on the Torchbearer Sauces Kawasaki. He was sporting some custom ProTech gear that looked like the 1980s Philadelphia Eagles uniforms, those beautiful Kelly green jerseys that they ran back in the day with Randall Cunningham at quarterback. And Logan had lit kit this weekend, perhaps. Of course, you couldn't really see it in the mud. It was a solid weekend for Logan. Of course, he's pretty good in the mud. Last year got top 10 in Foxborough, but unfortunately, he was a few spots shy of the main event. He did get some TV time, however, and of course, he had a lot of fan support this weekend in Philly. And Ricky Randonella was also back in action, a New Jersey based privateer. He made the main events in the 250 class at Foxborough last year, but Ricky is in a 450 class this time. He was 250s a year ago. Back in action, his second attempt of the season, he was also competing at Daytona, but a few of the racers there. And of course, we are getting a bit closer to the Yamaha Pulp MX LCQ Challenge, the big money race at the end of the year, put on by Steve Mathis for the privateer racers. Zach Williams, right now, the number one seed for that race. This has been episode number 15 of the Unsung Heroes of Philadelphia. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, big thank you to Russell Buccheri from 3D Racing KTM for his appearance on the show talking about his first career main event start. We appreciate the love, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to spread the word about the show on whatever platforms. Follow, subscribe us, of course, at the Stire Sound official, our main podcast social media page. That's on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at TJStire3, TJSTIRE, and the number 3. We will be back After Denver, only 2 more Supercross races to go. Hard to believe, but of course, we will be covering the entire Super Motocross World Championship season, so never fear. We will be covering privateers all year, Supercross, Motocross, and the playoffs. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you after round number 16 in Denver.